Hello everyone, welcome to Rogue Legacy. This is Smite. In this video we're going to be taking on the 5 boss remakes. They're remixes of the old 5 bosses, completely optional, very difficult, and a bit tricky to unlock, so we'll go over that. We're going to see if we can beat these 5 without taking damage, so let's get started. I didn't mention that they turned up the statue frequency, and the reason they did is because they added an obol for each boss. Once you've killed a boss, you can find their obol, and what you have to do is kill yourself and bring it to Charon, just like the other obol, except this time he'll permanently unlock the hidden boss door for you. And as long as that boss is dead, you can go in that door anytime. You can beat the entire game, come back and kill the boss again, it'll still be unlocked. And the thing about these boss fights is they're all preset. Your character level doesn't matter, what you bring doesn't matter, because you're not using the air that you go in with. No randomness involved, so it's important to look at your character and see what they gave you. First up is Neo-Khidr. We got a spell sword with Guardian Blade. We got 2 dash runes, 2 jumps, and a haste rune, just to make things hard to control. Instead of spike traps, we got spikes, just regular spikes on the floor. We don't have enough mana to keep casting Guardian Blade without smacking Khidr a couple times. This boss was hard for me because the patterns were a little bit different, a little sped up, especially that rolling attack there. That's the hardest one to dodge, and sometimes they do it back to back like that. But I got the hang of it eventually, and once you've got the pattern down, just like the other Khidr, not a very hard boss. Compared to the other new ones at least, he's still much harder than Khidr was. But having Guardian Blade lets you do a lot of damage real fast. Once you kill a boss, you permanently get a piece of a medallion from the chest instead of stats. We'll get to that later. For now, let's move on to the next boss. His name is Alexander the Fourth, and he is a much harder version of Alexander. He's actually probably the hardest of the bosses. And it's because his quarters are so cramped, and he's powered up beyond belief in every way. He moves faster, he spawns units constantly, and he's always chasing you around. And we are given a Hokage, so we can teleport through the bars there. That's the only way to get through those spikes. And you have to be a little precise with it or you'll end up hurting yourself. We've also got Quantum Translocator to get out of danger, and I like to put it in the top left, but with all those Furies flying around, it's really dangerous to use. The important part of this fight is to keep those dead. You want to lock them down constantly. If you let too many get around, they're going to shoot you eventually. He's not so bad by himself, but he will spawn those things, and it's a full-time job to get rid of them. If you do have to take damage, the spikes will give you lower damage than he will. He'll hit you for something like 65. And down goes Alexander the Fourth. Not so bad. It took me a couple tries to get him right. With all the health steal they give you in that fight, I never had too much trouble doing it normally. But to do it without taking any damage, very difficult with all those Furies flying around. Every time I teleport in an emergency, I'd fly right into one and ruin the whole thing. Let's move on to the third one. Ponce De Freon. He's still one of the easier ones. You might have noticed a hint there with the player name. We're a Barbarian King, and we can get rid of projectiles with Shout, and that is the hardest part of this fight for sure, just like with Ponce. Basically, the big thing they did here was extend the lifetime of those substantially. So you want to use your Shout just like that to clear as many as you can whenever you get in a tight spot. We also have 4 jump runes and a dash rune. And that's a sky cape we got on, so there's 2 more jumps from that. And the reason we need all these jumps is there's some platforms way up top we can use. You're kind of threading the needle here with his projectiles, just like Ponce, except a lot more difficult because they will not be gone when you get down here. You're going to have to loop him around in some way. Either around the whole room, or like I do, I try and mess him up and waste as much time as possible. That gives me a lot more room to work with. You've only got enough mana for 3 shouts, and you're not going to get mana back off Furies like an Alexander, so if you waste them, you're kinda out of luck. Barbarian does have a lot of health, so we can take some damage if we need to. Unfortunately, so can he. He takes quite a few hits. This is quite the endurance battle. My advice is to take your time, make use of your space, and hit him as much as possible when he goes into attack. I feel like the 3 shouts do a lot to lessen the difficulty of that one. 2 medallion pieces to go. The next boss is a lot of fun, even though it's a dragon-based fight, and if you watch my LP you know I hate the dragon. They managed to do some unique stuff with it though, and I'm kinda surprised they didn't bother to buff the dragon while they did this. Anyway, Astrodotus. If you've ever played Asteroids, this is a lot like that. So we can fly through the terrain and so can they. They kind of home in on us, and these 2 slimes, they're different. The red one, Astrodotus, is the green one. Herodotus is, for some reason, the red one, and he is much faster. I recommend getting rid of him first. You can do 2 things here. You can spam your fireball, and that's kind of dangerous, but it works if you can do it. Or be controlled like I am. I'm worried about getting hit here, so I just want to get rid of these 1 slime at a time. The difference between the green one, he takes more hits to kill. He splits more. I think at least 1 more time, so killing him is going to clutter up your screen. He's slower, he's easier to dodge. Just take your time, get rid of the red one first. You'll have a lot of room to work with when you get ready for him. That's what I've done here. I've avoided him completely. Now that the red's gone, we can slowly start chipping away at this. This is a rather long fight too if you do it this way. And you can only take 3 hits. That 3rd hit's gonna kill you. You just have to aim carefully, watch out for them because they do home, and it might be disorienting to watch them fly up through the screen through the bottom. I don't think this boss is very hard. He's probably the easiest of them all. Now one thing you might have noticed is that I have infinite mana, as opposed to a normal dragon, which has to regen every shot, and also my range is dramatically increased. Without those 2 buffs, this would be a lot harder to do, and that's the kind of buff I was talking about. That would make the dragon a great class. There we go, almost done. I've been hit at the end here being careless, so I'm taking my time still. There's my bad aim at work. There we go. Now the 5th medallion piece is not accessible on this era, unfortunately. We had to kill all 4 bosses before the last obol will unlock in the statues, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% about that, but that seems to be the way it would work. So now we have to go find a statue and hope we get the obol, but it seems like the odds are on our side because the first one I open up gives it to me. The Trader's Obol. This unlocks the 5th boss, so we kill this heir, get a new one, and turn that in. Now I thought this boss would be in the big door, but you actually are supposed to go to any old boss door like Khidr's or Alexander's and you can start this fight. The Brohannes. We're fighting 2 Johanneses at once. It's a nightmare situation, and we are Johannes himself. We've got his dagger spam and his axe spam, and if we try hard enough we can even get a guardian blade to come out. They are miniature versions of him. They're not as bad as he is, not quite. They throw 3 axes instead of 5. They throw 3 daggers instead of 5. They seem to love guardian blade though, and the 2 of them together is very hard to dodge. I really hate this fight. This one took the longest by far out of all of them to get down right. Trying to do this fight without taking a single hit is an exercise in frustration, let me tell you. These guys love to throw daggers that I don't see because they throw them through the 100 guardian blades they have up. They love to just randomly swing their sword and hit me. They are extremely hard to predict, just like Johannes. It's hard to control them both. And I play this as cautiously as I can. My advice for not taking damage is to counterattack. Wait for them to strike and swing back at them. That'll help you avoid their normal melee swing. When they jump up to throw axes, that's your best strike. We do have hypergonadism, that knocks them way back, that helps a lot in this fight. That's a nice trait to have. You could cycle them on the wall. That's too dangerous for me to do though. That's what I would do if I could take some damage. We can take a lot of hits. We can take 7 hits, and that makes this a very reasonable fight under normal circumstances. The other thing to know is that they don't share health bars or anything, so you can focus one down and get rid of the other. I'm keeping them both in one place just because it's easier for me to control them that way, but it's a good idea to drop one because one by himself is not that big of a threat. Now I'm still playing extremely cautiously because I'm tired of this fight at this point. The other ones I got pretty quickly, a couple of attempts. This one, probably more than a dozen tries. Every time I would just get hit by a dagger I didn't see, or they'd just feel like swinging all of a sudden. So I'm just making sure that I get this victory, and there we go. All 5 bosses have been defeated with no damage taken. I am celebrating. I was very happy that I finally pulled that off. Medallion completed. Now what does that do for us? Well, it unlocks Johannes the Traitor as the class. The class we just played is now the 10th class in the game. We'll be demonstrating him right now. So obviously we're going to have to get rid of our character here. Back on the AR screen, first try, we got the Traitor. Sir Wizerl II, Hypergonadism and Endomorph, pretty close to what we were just playing just by sheer coincidence. He has the stats of a Paladin, and he does not have the immortality of a Paladin. He's got these spam abilities though. I didn't notice that he had the sword attack, but if you dash backwards and press daggers, you do shoot that too. The interesting thing about this is that he's bound in a way that's better than the Archmage. His axes are on Y, his daggers are on B, and his dash backwards and B is the sword. I think the Archmage would benefit from being able to switch skills that quickly. Now when you enter here, you get custom text from Johannes. He's angry that you are his class. Just walking in here and having him start this conversation will net you the final achievement that they added to the game with the patch. You don't even have to win the fight. That being said, very easy to win this fight in this situation. The dagger spam, very powerful. It's like 5 dagger attacks in one. And I've got plenty of mana on this high level character. This is NG3, he doesn't have a chance. And he has decent stats too. I could do this fairly, but I'm getting some revenge for that awful Brohannes fight. The fountain is even easier to drop because unlike Johannes there, the fountain does not really have immortality frames aside from when he's dashing to do some attack. When he's standing in the corner, I can just wail on him with those daggers. So let's see how long he lasts against what I consider to be the most powerful DPS in the game. Probably is those dagger spells. Health just melts off. Johannes is no match for his own spam, and this is the anticlimactic way to end my LP, but what are you gonna do? It was just so satisfying. Now me personally about this class, DPS aside, I'd rather have the Paladin's immortality skills. When you're giving me straight damage after NG+, and you probably will be on N+1 at least when you get this guy, not so great. And that concludes the content patch and Rogue Legacy. I had a lot of fun with this LP. Thanks for watching, guys.